but I get to see the school system from two sides. I'm also a school board member, so I'm a school board member in one county, and then I work in a different county. So I get to see the governance side and the day-to-day operation side. And a lot of times, educators don't understand that what we do impact student lives to where they're either going to be successful or they're going to end up in prison. So what I try to do and what I try to educate, because I also consult and do consultation for principals, is let them know that the more we suspend, the more likelihood that they'll end up in a detention center or prison, that's not what we want. So that's kind of like the foundation of some of the work.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Leaders of Tomorrow podcast series from TomoClub. I am co-founder of TomoClub, Avinash Bansal. And today on our podcast series, we have Marcus Scott. He's the Chief Academic Officer at Allendale County Schools. Thank you so much for joining in, Marcus.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me to the show.
No, absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure when I was going through your profile. So Marcus is definitely an accomplished educator, author, community leader in Georgia and other counties. And he was also a finalist for the Georgia Association of Secondary School Principals. And he's also an author of Inspire, a 7 systems of how do you transform an underperforming school, which will definitely dig into it. But before we get started, I would love to know, Scott, what got you in the education in the first place?
Pretty much the fact that my father, he wasn't an educator. I grew up kind of below the poverty level, but he worked hard to show us that one man can change a child's life, which I ended up being a single father raising my son. So I always wanted to give back to students, love working with the youth. And the fact that I saw that most males didn't have that father figure in their life, and I think that made a difference in mine. I wanted to kind of give back to the community, and I always kind of coached and taught students. So I thought that would be a great career, and glad that I did choose education, because I believe in helping our youth, because our youth is our future. So that's pretty much why I got into education.
Wow. Now, being a father myself, I just loved your mission statement. I think it's so well explained. Can you walk me through your background? I'm really curious. I see one with barbed wires and one side school. Is it like a juvenile center or something like on the other side? What is it?
Oh no, that's my book. It's Pipeline to Prison. A lot of times what people don't realize is, and that's kind of what the book inspired. Like I said, I'm also an author, but I get to see the school system from two sides. I'm also a school board member, so I'm a school board member in one county, and then I work in a different county. So I get to see the governance side and the day-to-day operation side. And a lot of times, educators don't understand that what we do impact student lives to where they're either going to be successful or they're going to end up in prison. So what I try to do and what I try to educate, because I also consult and do consultation for principals, is let them know that the more we suspend, the more likelihood that they'll end up in a detention center or prison, that's not what we want. So that's kind of like the foundation of some of the work. But my background is I started out as a middle school teacher. I was math and I taught social studies and reading on the middle school level. Then I became an assistant principal at a young age. Dr. Valerie Cave, who's my current superintendent, I'm a chief academic officer in Allendale Schools. She hired me at 27 as an assistant principal in another district that we worked together. From an assistant principal of a middle school, I became an assistant principal of a high school. And then eventually I became the principal of an alternative program. From the alternative program, I became the state alternative president for alternative education. And then I took over a middle school that we were able to turn around as well. And now I'm currently the chief academic officer in Allendale County Schools, where we look to turn that district around as well. So a lot of turnaround work where we started with low performing schools, and we've been able to make sure that they were higher performing before we left those districts. So That's pretty much my background. Like I said, I'm also a school board member as well. So I have a various background in different things with education.
No, I love that. I think sometimes people who are working in one direction, they get so caught up in everyday firefighting that they can't look a bigger picture. So since you actually shift gears at different job profiles, I think it's definitely gives you a better perspective. So I'm pretty excited to know you did hit a perfect score of 100 and a closing the achievement gap. So
Mhm.
most school have been trying to do that in decades. So
Yeah.
what did you do in year one? So very actionable question I'm asking. What did you do in year one that every other leader was kind of afraid to do?
Good question. But you have to, just like you just said, you can't be afraid to do what's right for students. So every decision must be based on what's best for students. And a lot of times as educators, we want to make the adults comfortable and hold the children to the fire. So it should be the other way around, where we're making the children comfortable and hold the adults to the fire. And that takes courageous decision making because, again, our customers are the students. So in year one, that's pretty much the foundation of what you do. It's just like building a house. If that foundation is not strong, so you're not trying to turn around a whole school district or school in year one. Year one is where you're laying down the foundation, putting your systems in place. That's why I wrote the book Inspire, talk about the 7 systems for transforming underperforming schools. There are 7 systems that every school or district must be performing high at in order to turn around a school. And that's what you focus on year one, making sure that all 7 of these systems are being supported. It may not be at high levels year one, but that's your goal, is to build that foundation so that it will be functioning by year 2 and 3.
Wow. You have to tell us about those 7 steps now, the 7 systems.
Okay. So the 7 systems is an acronym, is an Inspire, which stands for instructional leadership. So you must be an instructional leader. Some leaders are not instructional. They handle like operations, but you have to understand that instruction is at the forefront. That's what students are there for. Principals are there for student achievement. So if you're not getting student achievement, you're doing something wrong. The N is for nurturing culture and climate, because culture eats strategy for breakfast. So no matter what strategies you have, if the culture and climate is not good, it's not going to be effective. So you have to have that at high levels. The next thing is you have to have some structures for success. So I talk about 55 structures for success, but that's anything that you do in your system, in your school, to make sure that students are successful. Those are structures for success. The fourth one is the P. That's parent involvement and branding. So we want parents involved and community members involved. So if you can do that, you're likely to be successful as well. And then that they will help you brand your school as well. The I is for inspecting what you expect. So that's what you must do. You must inspect what you expect as a leader. The R is for relationships. All right. Nothing happens without solid relationships. And then the E is for employing and empowering the right people. You have to have the right people in place to make substantial change as well.
Love that. Now that you have now inspired me to actually try out and read more about it because all these 7 points you mentioned, they are definitely resonates, but I want to dig in deep because uh, because they are hard problems to solve for. Whether it's culture, whether it's relationship, they don't build up overnight. So there's a lot of thought process and very contextual understanding of that particular school required to understand that. Um, okay, let me ask you one more question. So when you think about turning around an underperforming school, what's the first thing that you stopped spending money on? Or both, what's the first thing that you spend money on, and what's the first thing that you stopped spending money on?
Excellent question again. The first thing that we start spending money on is students. Anything that the student need, um, you have to individualize. So every student need different things, and sometimes that may not even be school related, unfortunately. So there's wraparound services that's needed. We had a washer and dryer that parents could come in on Saturday and use. We had food pantries, so just thinking about things that's outside of the norm. You have to educate the whole child, and that's building those relationships as well. Anything that I would stop spending money on, anything anything that's contrary to student achievement.
Mhm.
Can't think of anything specific right now, but I can talk about one thing that we did. We had vending machines in the school where we were only getting 5% of those vending machine funds. So that didn't make sense to me. We would have Coke machines, our staff and students were spending hundreds of dollars, and we would get maybe $5 a month on it. So we got rid of all those machines, and we just started a school store. The same thing that they were selling, we sold at the school store, and we pretty much made about 400 to 500 a day versus getting $5 a month. So, but anything that you see is not helping students, we don't spend money on. So that's
Mhm.
what I would say. And there's a lot of programs out there. You have to find out what program works for you. But I do recommend not having multiple programs for one thing. So a lot of schools have different programs, and you go and you ask them what program they use for literacy, and there's 7 programs for literacy. That's not going to help students achieve. It has to be consistency, and it has to probably be one program that you use with fidelity.
No, I love that because sometimes multiple programs also confuses the teachers
Correct.
and the students, because even if both the programs or more than two programs have the same intent, um, their sequence or their scaffolding can be very different, and
Correct.
yeah, it can be confusing. So I love that. um, Also, when you have to solve or you have to fix a broken school, um, community pay, you have to fix the community also around it. So because there is definitely a developed inertia, and it's also difficult for a new person to come in and earn that respect immediately to start dictating new things, and people can have a immediate repulsion. So whether it's both educators or the community of parents around the school, how do you address that in your turnaround?
Yes, and that's part of the 7 systems is getting parents and community members involved. So it all kind of works together. You have to build those relationships so that community members want to be involved. I tell a lot of people say, parent involvement is low, and I kind of disagree with that because if you look at parents are at games, anytime we had a band concert, parents are there. So we're
Mhm.
just not using it to our advantage. So anytime students perform, usually a high number of parents turn up.
Mm.
So, and then food helps. But what I say more than food is when students are doing something, if their child is doing something, they're usually there. So if there's like basketball or a band event, so we always had those things at any event that we were going to have so we can ensure that the turnout was there. So the same thing with getting in the community. You have to sometimes not expect the community to come to you, but you have to reach out to them. We had a lot of business partners that wanted to work with us, but no one had ever reached out to them. So we had parent coordinators specifically designed to reach out to business partners, to talk to community members, and there were so many requirements that we required them to, so many contacts we required them to do a week. And because of that, we were able to get parents and community involved. But as you said, that's very important in making sure that not just underperforming schools, but any school. If you look at the book, I crossed out underperforming because what works in underperforming school works in all schools. It's
Mm.
high research, practice based policies that will make sure that students are successful, and that's what works in all schools.
No, I love that idea, and I think that's something a lot of people can learn from this podcast is if you involve anything around kids or students performing, you can increase show up, and then you can also have your own planned things. So whether you have to communicate a new policy, you have to communicate a new fundraising or a new program, I think that's a great opportunity. Love that idea. Also, I was reading about you. You run a youth mentorship program, right?
Yes, sir. I started a youth program in 2010. We started with a group of 4th graders that wanted to play basketball on the college level. So we took those 4th graders all the way through college, and we stayed with them. They graduated in 2018, And we still have a youth mentoring program that we currently do with boys and girls now, where we mentor on one Saturday a month for 4 hours. That's why when they say students don't, come to school and there's an attendance problem, we have about 40 kids, students that come faithfully every Saturday to talk about mentoring and leadership. So again, it's all about that engagement and encouraging students to come, and they will come. But the fourth graders that we end up having, we had 100% of them attend college on either a football or basketball scholarship. So all of them ended up playing on the college level like they wanted to, and are all doing very well in their careers and lives. So that program, we didn't teach them basketball. What we taught them about life, required them to have good grades, and now they come back and speak to our current ones, which is not focused on basketball, but it's focused on mentoring and leadership. So that graduation will be in May for those students, so for our students, and we'll look for them to go on and be successful as well. Last year, that group of mentors had over $1 million in scholarships. So we look to have the same thing this year.
That's actually very interesting. So, what do you do in these 4 hours? I understand if they're playing sports, then even 4 hours is not enough. But when you mentioned apart from sports mentorship, then you're actually talking about leadership or teaching life skills. So, can you walk us through how these 4 hours are used more effectively?
Yes, sir. So every morning we start with an icebreaker. So there's different things. Like last week, we had a scenario. We give $500 scholarships for any student that first they can apply. Every year we give out one to the high schools, but also to any student that has perfect attendance, don't miss any event for the whole year. So there was a scenario, and this is leadership, that talked about what if they miss one day for several different reasons, or maybe not even one day, maybe they missed 10 minutes. Should we make an exception? So we went through a leadership scenario with that. So that's just discussing the leadership aspects of that. Also, we have a speaker from the community, usually sometimes an elected official or someone that grew up in the county, but that's currently in the leadership position. So each one of them will speak for about 10 minutes. So that's about 3 to 4 speakers every month, and that's about 40 minutes of the time. Then they have to work on a leadership project. Their leadership project is to come up with a solution for the county and find a way to come up with a problem for the county, what they think is the biggest problem in the county. That could be in the school or in the community, and come up with a solution by graduation, which is May, for that problem. So they get some time to work on that as well. And then we also work on, we may have a different topic, such as the 7 habits that we go over, or we went over their leadership style. So different topics that we talk about. Each one of them have a one-to-one mentor outside of the program that they're to check in with weekly, and they're expected to be mentors to others. So kind of giving back. That's why I like the fact that our 2018 graduates come back now and talk to our students so that they can see this is what you do when you're graduating, you're successful. Because all of our 2018 have also graduated from college, not just high school. So um, it's an excellent program. It's called Scott's All Stars in Hinesville, Georgia.
Wow, congratulations on this successful program. And in fact, why I was more curious because I think I work with a lot of mentorship programs which works after school or which works on a Saturdays. And usually they are mixed group, like mixed age groups. So, students, anything from 4th, 5th, 6th together. So it's really difficult to engage them together because they're of different age brackets. One of our program that we actually have these multiplayer games which kids play in the classroom, and they have these fantastic responses because through these games they learn skills like resilience, how to manage rejection, how to handle you know loss, or there's so many skill set that we teach through these games, and it works beautifully. So that's why I was very curious, and especially I think for few of the schools we even use Title One funds. For some schools they use 21st Century CCLC fund, if you've heard about it. So
Yes, I'm familiar.
yeah,
Yes,
definitely
excellent.
we can talk about it more. But last question that I want to ask you. So if a first year principal, it's a toughest school, and let's say if working in a toughest school in America, um, what's one thing you wish someone would have told them before they start working on turnaround? Some prerequisite knowledge that you learned the hard way and you want to pass it on to someone.
Perfect question, and it's actually the reason I wrote the book Inspire, because as a first year principal, no one gives you a playbook. So that's why I call this a principal's guide to school improvement. So I wish someone had pretty much given me this playbook and told me about these 7 systems that I needed to be successful. Because I had to figure it out. I had to do the research myself. But that's the reason I created this book for principals, exactly just like you described, where you're at a school that you don't have time to learn on the fly. So I've put everything in a book so that you can read through it. And if you read through it and again function all 7 systems at high levels, I'm almost guaranteed you'll be successful.
Wow, I think that's the best synopsis anybody can have for a book, and I'll definitely grab my hand on it. But thank you so much, Marcus. This has been fantastic. Last question, skip my mind. How are you dealing with now as a chief academic officer? Um, you have to figure out the navigate AI right now. From
Yes.
all subjects, and whether it's literacy, whether it is math. So, what's your current strategy around that?
And I saw that you do a lot with AI, so I was going to definitely get back. I'll be reaching out back to you. But AI is a big thing. I've been in education for almost 25 years, so I've seen a lot of the switches and changes. But AI is a game changer that a lot of staff members are not comfortable with. And I think just like when the cell phones came in, we have to get comfortable with AI. And a lot of the information that we learned back in the days where it was just memorization is no longer needed. A lot of the writing skills, unfortunately, will not be needed as much. So we have to be able to find a way to use AI to our advantage, and that's what I teach a lot of my teachers about how do we use AI. And again, anytime I see an AI program or training, I'm in there because I do think that that's going to be the next wave in education on how students learn. So I'm I'm learning just like a lot of people are learning how to best implement it, but I use AI every day. So it's not a day that I don't use AI, and students do as well. So the veteran teachers that's on the way out, if they're going to stay for a few more years, they're going to have to figure out how to use it as well. And again, like I said, I saw the same thing when technology became big in the, I would say, mid 2005. So a lot of teachers were hesitant to use technology, but until COVID came, a lot of teachers didn't know how to do virtual and Zoom.
Yeah.
So we were forced to do that then, and I don't think we should wait to be forced to embrace AI.
Yeah, no, that's very nicely put. And I'll give you one more perspective. So, which will resonate with maximum teachers out there. So, whenever we talk to a teacher and we ask, what do you really want to do? And they always talk about, a student growth or student helping students. So, I tell them very simple example that if you are not gonna get on this AI wagon right now, you are gonna let your kids feel the same at a certain degree, or they will pass you will like without consciously passing on that fear or passing on that hesitation to them as well, and that's a disservice. So apart from everything else, if you're doing everything for the students, you have to do this also for the students. Simple.
Correct. Correct. I agree because, like you just said, that's a disservice because the world is going to be advancing and they won't. So definitely.
Perfect. Now, with this, I think I'll take a wrap. And this has been fantastic talking to you with Marcus. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, and sorry about the technology issue, but I'm glad we were able to still move forward. Thank you so much for the opportunity.